This week, Time bestows a special honor on Pope Francis. We mark the 50th anniversary of key moments at Vatican II, and some North American bishops have new dioceses. Hello and welcome to Vatican Connections as we take a look at another headline-grabbing week at the Vatican. Time magazine has named Pope Francis Person of the Year. The announcement was made Wednesday morning, and Time editor Howard Chua-Ian said Pope Francis was named for pulling the papacy out of the palace and into the streets. Catholic News Service has more.
Pope Francis is the third pope in history to have been chosen by Time magazine as Person of the Year. Blessed John Paul II won the honor in 1994, and Blessed John XXIII in 1962. Time chose Pope Francis this year, it said, because rarely has a new player on the world stage captured so much attention so quickly from the young, the old, the cynical, and the faithful. It said the Pope, with his focus on compassion, has become the new voice of conscience. Meanwhile, Father Lombardi, the Vatican spokesman, said it's a positive sign that such a prestigious recognition has gone to a person who proclaims spiritual, religious, and moral values to the world and speaks effectively in favor of peace and greater justice. The choice of Pope Francis, the spokesman said, is not surprising in light of his wide appeal and the enormous attention he has attracted. The spokesman said the Pope isn't seeking fame or accolades, but being named Person of the Year will make him happy if it helps attract people to the hope of the gospel. Father Lombardi added that the Pope would also be pleased if the magazine's decision means that many have understood this message of hope.
The Vatican's financial reforms have received a nod of approval from Moneyval, the committee of experts on the evaluation of anti-money laundering measures and the financing of terrorism. The Holy See submitted a progress report to Moneyval, which was approved at the committee's plenary meeting on Tuesday. While this doesn't yet change the Holy See's international ratings, Moneyval pointed out some of the most important changes the Holy See has made. They listed Pope Francis's 3 recent decrees regarding the Vatican's financial structure, the widening of the scope of the authority for financial information, and the application of anti-money laundering norms to all Vatican-based organizations, not just the bank. Moneyval also said there has been a significant increase in reports of suspicious transactions in 2013, but that's a good thing because it means the new rules and reporting requirements are working. Turning to matters a little more holy, the Focolari movement is requesting that the cause for Chiara Lubic's canonization be opened. The president of the Focolari movement, Maria Voce, announced the decision over the weekend. The request to open Lubic's sainthood cause will be presented to the Bishop of Frascati. If Lubic's cause proceeds, it could be seen as a major boost to the Focolari movement, whose charism of unity is still considered quite new in the Church and in the world. The Focolari movement began in 1944 with Lubic and a small group of like-minded friends who wanted to live out the gospel in their daily lives. Today, the Focolari movement is present around the world, and as the movement's website says, persons of every age, vocation, religion, conviction, and culture belong to the Focolari. This week also marks an important anniversary. 1 year ago, on December 12th, then Pope Benedict XVI launched the papal Twitter account. Now, you might remember it was a Wednesday, and during his general audience, Pope Benedict was presented with an iPad, all set up to take the handle @Pontifex live. Since the papal Twitter account went live, @Pontifex has accrued over 3 million followers in English, more than 4 million followers of the Spanish language account, the Italian language feed, and the Arabic, Latin, Polish, and German accounts all have over about 100,000 followers each. Turning now to a delicate situation unfolding in one religious community, we heard about the Franciscans of the Immaculate when Pope Francis issued an order that they stop using the extraordinary form of the Mass in their communities. Some people said Pope Francis was going against Pope Benedict's 2007 decree, which made it easier for the faithful to celebrate the Latin Mass. But this week, we learned that the situation is more complicated and goes beyond Mass forms. Now, the order was founded in the 1970s and is, of course, based on the spirituality of St. Francis. The Latin Mass was never part of its tradition, but in 2008, the founder, Father Stefano Manelli, proposed amending the order's constitution to make it the only way of celebrating in the community. The community did not agree, and the proposal was taken off the table before it could be voted on. Still, the extraordinary form became the de facto mandatory way of celebrating Mass. Many other changes were also implemented in a similar way in the community. At that point, 5 longtime members tried to bring these issues to the founder and the Father General. When that didn't work, they wrote to the Congregation for Institutes of Apostolic Life and Societies of Religious Life. This was before Pope Benedict XVI retired. The Congregation for Religious agreed there were internal problems and appointed an apostolic visitator, Father Fidencio Volpi. Now, he discovered that a large percentage of friars really did feel there were problems with how the order was being run. But before anything could be done, Pope Benedict retired and everything was put on hold. Now, in recent weeks, Father Volpi revealed that Father Manelli granted control of the order's assets to a lay association affiliated with the order. This is not allowed under canon law. He also transferred some assets to his own family members or family members of the women's community. He did this after the Vatican appointed a visitator. Since then, he's been admitted to a private clinic where he cannot receive visitors under doctor's orders. The lay branch of the order has been suspended until the financial situation is cleared up. The situation is still unfolding, but it is more complex than just how to celebrate Mass and will undoubtedly affect all branches of the community. The friars have 3 houses in North America. Finally, this week was the 50th anniversary of the signing of Inter Mirifica, the Vatican II document about media. To mark the anniversary, a new website was launched featuring commentary from scholars and articles and some great historical footage. To see more, visit intermirifica50.va.
Peculiari sollecitudine mater ecclesia, ea exhibit ad protectum. Santa Universal Synodo Vaticana Secunda, legitime congregata, modo lecta sunt, quaquarum passus, et in nostra Apostolica Christo nobis gravita potestate, Domine benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
This week, Pope Francis put his support behind a Caritas International campaign called One Human Family, Food for All. The campaign aims to end global hunger. Now, Development and Peace is the Canadian organization that is part of the Caritas Federation, and Josiane Gauthier of Development and Peace is here to tell us more about the campaign and what we can all do to make a difference. Josiane, thank you for being here. First, can you explain why Caritas is launching this campaign?
It really did start to come around hunger and the fight against hunger, because hunger, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Hunger is an issue which is sort of like the visible tip of the iceberg, where you know that there's so many more things underneath that create the situation of hunger in the world and vulnerability. And it's just a horrible scandal. 1 in 8 people are suffering of hunger, and it's quite catastrophic in most countries. And especially if you look at the age groups that are suffering the most. I mean, in countries of the global south where populations are very much under 18 and children. So there's a lot of vulnerability on this earth, and it's a completely avoidable situation. The question is not whether there is enough food on the earth, it's how is it being distributed, how is it being shared, how is it being produced, what are the policies behind food, and there's so many more things underneath. So it was really a topic that we could all gather around from our particular perspectives and what we're working on in development and social justice. And it was a very easy campaign for us to connect to as Development and Peace because of all of our previous work on the underlying issues.
So there seem to be 2 aspects to this campaign, if I've got it right. One is raising awareness of the fact that we can end hunger, and the second is changing people's consumption habits. So tell us first about raising awareness. Where can people get more information about the reality of hunger around the world and this claim that there is enough food to feed everyone?
Right now, the campaign has been launched by the Holy Father, as you saw on the 10th, with the wave of prayer. And so the Caritas Internationalis website is already carrying some information and material on some of the underlying issues. Development and Peace is currently preparing this material, which we are attaching to our Share Lent campaign. So that gets started in February and March, and then, of course, culminates with the 5th Sunday of Lent, and that's our collection time. So it's actually leading up. We're going to have this conversation over the winter and the spring, and we are preparing material. So it's going to go up on our website as of January, our own campaign materials. People will be able to go and get all the information they need on the analysis. And what we're going to do is give examples of how our partners, Development and Peace partners and work, are working with populations in the global south to fight hunger through the struggle against those underlying issues. So the rights of farmers, the distribution of land, land policies, eco-justice. How are we treating the land, and why isn't it not yielding the healthy food that people need? Food sovereignty, the right of nations to feed themselves adequately, and the dignity of every person to be able to feed themselves. So there are a lot of other, as I said, issues that are underneath, and we are working on all of those already with our partners, and we're going to provide information on how we do that work to tell that story so that people understand better how these issues all connect together, and how when they're not working together, we see instances of hunger and food insecurity around the world.
Now, the second aspect, people's day-to-day habits here in the developed world. Can our consumer habits really make an impact? And if they can, so what can we do in our daily lives?
Well, as this is an awareness-raising campaign, obviously we do always want people to look at their own lives and see how this reflects in their day-to-day activities, and how choices we make in the North every day have an impact around the world. And so those personal choices, those are lifestyle choices often, have an impact on higher policies. So we just looking at how we purchase responsibly, be it fair trade, or how we respect the environment, how we cut back on waste. Waste is a huge issue for us in the North. We do it almost without thinking. And just to take conscience of that action, especially for us, because it'll be connected to Lent, which is a time where you're supposed to look at the sacrifices you make and how to share better. So it's really connected for us to the theme. And the question of food, as I said, is not alone. It's connected to fuel, transportation. So buying locally is an action which really does work towards food sovereignty in other countries. Paying the fair price for something is also, as in fair trade, is also an action which supports food production in a more respectful way. acting favorably against climate change. I mean, so get involved at whatever level you are in your life. Some people, even some suggestions of our sister agencies was try going a day meat-free if you're a meat eater, just to understand, just to be sensitive to the fact that meat is produced in conditions sometimes which are wasteful towards the land and towards other productions. So it's not always the best choice to produce meat in a country, but it's done for export reasons. So just little things like that. We're not asking people to change everything in their lives, but to take a moment and take those small actions which help them to raise awareness and raise awareness in their close environments.
Great. Thank you for being with us, and all the best with this campaign. That was Josiane Gauthier, the Director of Programs within Canada for Development and Peace. Did you know? Caritas Internationalis is actually a confederation of 160 member organizations worldwide. These member organizations work at the grassroots level in almost every country in the world. The Representative Council is based at the Vatican and is elected every 4 years. Now, while the rest of the world was buzzing over Time's Person of the Year, Pope Francis himself was going about his usual business. On the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, Pope Francis took part in a very Roman tradition. He went to the Spanish Steps to lead a short prayer service at the foot of the statue dedicated to the Immaculate Conception. As always, Roman firefighters placed wreaths of roses on the statue, and the Pope gave a short meditation and greeted the faithful. Unlike past years, Pope Francis arrived sitting in the front seat of a blue Ford Focus. Earlier in the day, he led the Angelus and explained the meaning of the Immaculate Conception.
Il Vangelo di San Luca ci presenta Maria, una ragazza di Nazareth, piccola località della Galilea, nella periferia dell'Imperio Romano e anche nella periferia di Israele, un paesino. Eppure su di lei, quella ragazza di quel paesino lontano, su di lei si è posato lo sguardo del Signore, che l'ha prescelta per essere la madre del suo figlio. In vista di questa maternità, Maria è stata preservata dal peccato originale, cioè di quella frattura nella comunione con Dio e con gli altri e con il creato che ferisce in profondità ogni essere umano. Ma questa frattura è stata sanata in anticipo nella madre di colui che è venuto a liberarci dalla schiavitù del peccato. L'Immacolata è iscritta nel disegno di Dio, è frutto dell'amore di Dio che salva il mondo. Contemplando la nostra Madre Immacolata, bella, riconosciamo anche il nostro destino più vero, la nostra vocazione più profonda. Essere amati, essere trasformati dall'amore, essere trasformati dalla bellezza di Dio. Guardiamo lei, nostra madre, e lasciamoci guardare da lei, perché è la nostra madre e ci ama tanto. Lasciamoci guardare da lei per imparare a essere più umili e anche più coraggiosi nel seguire la parola di Dio, per accogliere il tenero abbraccio del suo figlio Gesù, un abbraccio che ci dà vita, speranza e pace.
On Monday, Pope Francis concelebrated morning Mass at the Santa Marta residence with the Coptic Patriarch of Alexandria, who was visiting. And Wednesday was the general audience. He finished off his series of catechesis on the Creed, and he focused on the last line of the Creed, "I believe in life everlasting," and what that all means. Now, he spoke about the moment when we meet Christ. At the end of the audience, he also spoke about the Caritas campaign, One Human Family, Food for All, and he had the crowd repeat the slogan with him so they wouldn't forget it. Thursday, Pope Francis received the credentials of ambassadors to the Holy See who don't live in Rome, and on Saturday he was scheduled to visit the pediatric dispensary, which is called the St. Martha Dispensary and is located just steps away from the guest house where the Pope lives. And there were some nominations and resignations for North America and beyond this week. Jackson, Mississippi, and San Angelo, Texas have new bishops. Father Joseph Kopax of Scranton, Pennsylvania will become Bishop of Jackson, Mississippi. He has been a pastor in various parishes and served as a vicar for the clergy in Scranton. And Monsignor Michael Siss becomes Bishop of San Angelo, Texas. He has been a parish pastor, a university chaplain, the director of vocations, vicar general, and moderator of the Curia for the Diocese of Austin. Dunkeld, Scotland also has a new bishop. Bishop Stephen Robson takes the lead in Dunkeld. He was made auxiliary bishop of St. Andrews and Edinburgh in 2012. Vatican Connections is interactive. Send us your questions or comments by Facebook, Twitter, email, or post. Via email, send comments to info@saltandlighttv.org. And by post, send letters to 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, Canada. Finally today, just before we leave you, we're sharing some of your feedback on Pope Francis being chosen Person of the Year. There was some commentary going on around the photo chosen for the cover of Time's Person of the Year issue. David Flores said, "Not really feeling the choice. Oh well, it's a start." And Jose Ignacio Sierra said, "Try looking at that picture just a bit more and you'll catch a glimpse of the Holy Spirit." So there's some ambivalence about the photo, but finally, Elizabeth Diaz herself, the Time journalist who co-wrote the Person of the Year feature, set us all straight. She said it's not a photo, but a painting by the amazing Jason Seiler. Turns out the photo is a digital painting by Seiler, who is a classically trained oil painter and taught himself to paint digitally. He put in 70 hours on the portrait on a tablet and was sworn to secrecy about what he was working on. Well, that's it for Vatican Connections. Join us next time as we take a little bit of a look back through the year and look forward to Christmas at the Vatican. From everyone here, thanks for watching.